بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. This is lesson number 93 from the explanation of Bulugh Al-Maram, and inshallah today we're going to start with the wajibat al-salat. So in the three previous lessons, alright, so we went over the shurut for the salat. In the two previous lessons we went over the arkan al-salat. So now, inshallah, we are going to begin the wajibat. And for those that don't remember, the difference between a rukn and the arkan and the wajibat is that the rukn, if the person leaves it off accidentally, he has to go back and repeat that rak'ah and fulfill that rukn. He cannot just do sujood sahwu and say khalas. No. If he left it off on purpose, his salah is batila, it's invalid. So he has to, for example, if he forgot something ruku', or he forgot, something within the salat that's from amongst, for example, he just remembered, oh my God, I didn't recite Surah Al-Fatiha in one of the rak'ahs. Maybe he's praying in Asr and his mind got busy and he realized, he didn't realize that he wasn't reciting Surah Al-Fatiha until after the Imam had already gone to ruku'. So then he goes back and he repeats that rak'ah. He has to repeat that where he did not recite Surah Al-Fatiha because he did not fulfill that rukn. And then after that, then he will do sujood sahw. Alright, he will do sujood sahw to make up, for his forgetfulness. As far as the wajibat, all he has to do is sujood sahw. He doesn't have to go back and make up the thing that he missed. It was from the wajibat. So that's the difference. The rukn has to be done. It has to be done. It can't just be but the wajibat, if it's missed out of forgetfulness, then the person, he goes back and he does sujood sahw and it fixes what he missed, inshallah. Alright, so now we're going to deal with the wajibat, which are the obligatory acts in the salat. So he said, the first one, al-awwal, جميع التكبيرات غير تكبيرة الإحرام. So all the takbirat, except for the takbirat al-ihram, because the takbirat al-ihram is, of course, from the arkan al-salat, from the arkan. So, all of these takbirat al-intiqal, where you're going from position to position. So, from standing to ruku', of course, from ruku' to standing, you say Sami Allahu liman hamida, Rabbana wa lakal hamd. And then when you go into sujood, takbir. When you come out of sujood to the jilsatul bayna sajdatain, takbira. And when you go back to sujood, takbira. When you come out of sujood, you go back to sitting and then you stand and takbira. So all of these takbirat, these are wajiba. If the person were to forget one of them and he remembers that he forgot them, then he has to make sujood sahw at the end of the salat. Alright, the next thing, number 2, so that's the first one. Number 2 is Qul Subhana Rabbi al-Azim fi ruku'. So to at least say Subhana Rabbi al-Azim one time in ruku', at least once is wajib. And saying it more than once is sunnah, 3 times, 5 times, 7 times with the witr. You could say it as much as you want. It's not limited to 1, 3, 5, 7, 51, 59, as long as you wish to say it in the ruku', you say it. There's no limitations on how many times people feel like they only have to say it 3 times and they come out. No, you could say it 15 times. You're praising, you're remembering Allah. And in a state that you're in ruku', which is a very, very humble state, you're bent over, which is a very, very humble state, and you're remembering Allah and you're talking about the greatness of Allah. Do it a lot. Say it as much as you feel comfortable saying it. As long as you're not putting yourself in pain in that position, but say it, 15 times, 17 times, 21 times. But, do it an odd number of times. So saying that at least one time is wajib. Everything else, 3, 5, 7, 9 is all sunnah. And inshallah, we're going to go into this in more detail later on in the book, inshallah. As we're actually going through, there's a chapter in Bulugh Al-Maram that deals with the Sifat al-Salat al-Nabi, which is the characteristics of the prayer of the Prophet. So that chapter, inshallah, will be dealing with that there, inshallah. The third one, الثالث, قولوا سمع الله لمن حمده للإمام وللمنفرد. Alright, سمع الله لمن حمده للإمام, if, is for the Imam not for the munfarid if he's praying with the imam, but for the munfarid if he's praying alone. If he's praying alone. Because we went over the hadith in the last, when we were dealing with the arkan, about, the imam, what was the purpose of the imam, in which the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا جُعِلَ الْإِمَامُ لِيُتَمَّ بِهِ, is that the imam was made to be what? To be followed. You do what he does, right? فَلَا تَخْتَلِفُوا عَلَيْهِ, and so don't differ from him. فَإِذَا رَكَعَ فَرَكَعُوا, if he goes into ruku', you go into ruku'. وَإِذَا قَالَ سَمِعَ اللَّهُ لِمَنْ حَمِدَهُ, if he says سَمِعَ اللَّهُ لِمَنْ حَمِدَهُ فَقُولُوا رَبَّنَا لَكَ الْحَمْدُ, and you say رَبَّنَا لَكَ الْحَمْدُ. So you say رَبَّنَا لَكَ الْحَمْدُ because you're from the ma'mun. But if you're praying alone, then obviously you have to say سَمِعَ اللَّهُ لِمَنْ حَمِدَهُ. Alright, so that's the second one. Alright, this is from the wajibat. Alright, from the wajibat. And the fourth thing is the statement of Rabbana lakal hamd, or you can say Rabbana lakal hamd or Rabbana wa lakal hamd. Whatever came in any of the authentic narrations is correct. And that also goes back to the previous hadith that I just mentioned. Alright, so this is from the wajibat. Alright, this is not from the arkan, it's from the wajibat. So to say Rabbana lakal hamd or Rabbana wa lakal hamd, this is wajib on the imam and the ma'mum. Okay, on both. Okay. And even the person who's praying alone. All right. The fifth one, to say Subhana Rabbiyal A'la. Subhana Rabbiyal A'la fi sujood. So to say this when you go into sujood. The same as the statement in ruku' is that you have to say it at least once. But after that, you can say it as much as you like. And inshallah, that also will be dealt with, inshallah, in the same chapter in Bulugh Al-Maram, inshallah, in the chapter on Salat. So that's number 5. Number 6, as-sadis, قَوْلُ رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي بَيْنَ سَجْدَتَيْن. So this is from the wajibat to Salat. Alright, and we went over this hadith in the previous lesson, which is the hadith of Hudhayfa, saying رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي in بَيْنَ سَجْدَتَيْن. If I'm not mistaken, maybe it's the lesson before the previous lesson, if I'm not mistaken. Allahu A'lam. But we went over that hadith of Hudhayfa. So to say Rabb ighfir li between the sajdatain. So this is from the wajibat. This should not be left off, even if you just say it one time. So be careful of this. A person who leaves these things off, muta'ammidan, you have to be very, 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 very careful. Very, very careful. Because you leave these things off on purpose. You like for a lack of concern with them or lack of care of them, then your salat is not valid. So you have to be very careful with these. Alright, the seventh thing is at-tashahhud al-awwal. So this is the first tashahhud. This is from the wajibat. The second tashahhud, as we took in the last lesson, is from the arkan. Alright, and this also came in the hadith of Abdullah ibn Malik ibn Buhayna and Bukhari and Muslim. قال صلى لنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ركعتين من بعض الصلوات ثم قام فلم يجلس. So here he says, this hadith in Abdullah ibn Malik ibn Buhayna, he said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed with us 2 rak'at min ba'd salawat, from amongst the salawat. ثم قام فلم يجلس, and he stood up, and which means that he didn't sit down, he didn't stay down for the tashahhud. He stood up. فلم يجلس. فقام الناس معه, and the people stood up with him. فلما قضى صلاته ونظرنا تسليمه كبر فسجد سجدتين. And then when he finished the salat, وَنَظَرَنَا تَسْلِيمُهُ, and we saw him, تَسْلِيمُهُ كَبَّر. After he gave the taslim, he made takbir, and then he made two sajdatain, so he prostrated twice. وَهُوَ جَالِسْ قَبَلَ تَسْلِيم ثُمَّ سَلَّمْ. So he didn't, so وَنَظَرَنَا تَسْلِيمُهُ, that means like, here, nadara, it doesn't mean that we looked, it means انتظرنا. Nadarana here, it means intadarana, which means we were waiting for him to do the taslim, but he didn't do it. Instead, he went back into sujood. So he did the sajdatain before the taslim. Alright, so once he completed the 2 sajdas, then he did the taslim. And this, of course, is to make up for the fact that he stood up and he didn't sit down for the tashahhud. Alright, he did not sit down for the tashahhud. So this shows that it's from the wajibat. Alright, because he didn't go back and repeat it. Alright, so this is what you need to focus on. So in this hadith, which is in Bukhari and Muslim, he did not go back and repeat the action of the tashahhud, which shows that it's wajib, it's not from the arkan. Because again, if it's from the arkan, he would have to go back and repeat that action. You have to repeat that rak'ah. And he didn't repeat it, he just did a sujood al-sahw. Alright, the 8th thing is a julus, lit-tashahhud al-awwal. So obviously, because of the tashahhud is wajib, and as we talked about last time, ma la yatim al-wajib illa bihi fa huwa wajib. So, since the wajib is not completed except for the person being sitting, then sitting also becomes wajib, unless again the person has some affliction that causes him not to be able to sit. And then in this case, he has to, maybe sit on his, lay on his side, or maybe he can't sit on his knees again, like we talked about before, where he has to like put his legs out in front of him, or whatever the case may be. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. All right. So all of these 8 things, these are from the wajibat of the salat. So these things, they have to be done in the salat. So now alhamdulillah, we've covered the arkan. Well, we covered the shurut, we covered the arkan, and now we've covered the wajibat. And inshallah, in the next lesson, we will do the mustahabbat, or the sunan, the things that you should do when you're in the salat. وإلهنا سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.